Hele aloha no ke anu e lue, a he wehi ano kauka. He hoa kau ano ala kai, hulu pei kana hele. E maliu mai, I ka leo kupuna, ma ke ala o ke onga. E huaka I ki lohana, e kulia I ka du.
At the center of the Shangri-La Museum of Islamic Art, Culture, and Design is a courtyard where art, architecture, and history all meet. Walking here, the pull of this place is undeniable. Beauty and meaning live within these walls. Similarly, for Dr. Diane Paloma, place is everything. Hawaii is both her foundation and her source of strength.
I live in the same house that I grew up in. Which one I know is an economic decision as well as something that I love the house that I grew up in. My neighbors have been the same for the past probably 50, 60 years. We actually literally just last weekend, my neighbor's oven broke. She had to make banana bread. So she called us up and she said, hey, can I use your oven? And we're like, absolutely. You think you can drop off a loaf of banana bread with that? We'll take that as payment. But that's the kind of relationships that I've had growing up. And so that's, to me, one of the best parts about growing up. I still have the same friends from elementary school, same neighbors, right? The same family members that are still constantly around me and my family. And I think that's what growing up in Hawaii should be like.
Diane grew up in Ainahaina, the eldest of three, and like her mother, attended Kamehameha schools.
So my dad is pure Japanese, my mom is Chinese Hawaiian, and I remember my dad saying, you know what, Diane, I gotta send you to Kamehameha so you can learn about your Hawaiian side. And so I think it was a great, great foundation for me. I love performing arts, so of course, like music, mele, hula, art was really a big plus for me. I got to travel the world in high school, Japan, New Zealand, Alaska. We were the dance group that got to go receive the logs that eventually became the Hawaii Loa sailing canoe, which is still going around the world. And it just helped reinforce a lot of those grounded family values for me.
Today, Diane is the CEO of Hawaii Dental Service, the state's largest dental benefits provider, serving more than 1 million members across Hawaii, Guam, and Saipan. Her career has always been in healthcare, though not in the way she first imagined. After Kamehameha, she studied physiological science at UCLA and was set on becoming a physician. But when she didn't get into medical school, those plans changed.
When I didn't get into med school, and I remember this so vividly, I sat down with my parents at the kitchen table, and it was almost like this formal apology to them to say, I'm so sorry that I didn't get into med school, but I don't think I want to go anymore. And right, so thinking that, you know, my parents, oh no, you're gonna go, you're gonna try again, right? That is your destiny. We've told you this over and over. But actually, it was my dad who said the exact opposite, like jaw-dropping moment. He was like, no, you know what? I think I owe you the apology because we just put you in that profession, right? You got good grades. We thought you'd make a great physician. So that's what we thought you were gonna be. So everything that we said to you was along those lines, right? And that, right, and there were, of course, there were tears involved, but at the time, I was like, that is probably one of the best lessons for me ever. And of course, like my samurai dad was like, who is that guy who just apologized to me, right? Like, you know, Japanese dads don't do that to their daughters, but it just also allowed me to test out other things, right? And to kind of have this freedom of, oh my gosh, like, book is wide open, clean slate, like, what do I do now? I guess that early failure was probably, yeah, literally probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And it allowed me to stay in the healthcare industry, but not necessarily have to do it through the role of the physician.
And that's exactly what she did. Diane worked her way up through leadership roles at HMSA, the John A. Burns School of Medicine, and the Queen's Health System's Native Hawaiian Health Program, eventually becoming CEO of the King Lunalilo Trust and Lunalilo Home. Along the way, she earned an MBA from UH Manoa Scheidler College of Business and a PhD in Healthcare Administration from Capella University. At Lunalilo Trust, she oversaw services for kupuna, including the large care home in Hawaii Kai, and was at the helm when the COVID-19 pandemic hit.
Tell me about a time in your career where you felt really tested as a leader.
COVID, at the peak of COVID, when we were looking at potentially sending residents home with their families. I felt that kuleana of me as the leader of this organization, that I did not have control or I did not have the ability to take care of my residents. I always refer to that as like one of the hardest moments of my career is what happens if COVID enters this facility? What do I do? Because all of the news that we saw for COVID first came out of Kirkland, Washington, and it was a nursing care home, and they got wiped out. 40% of their residents gone in 3 weeks. So that was the only number that we had in our minds. We're like, okay, what happens when 40% of our residents are gone? What do we do? How do we plan?
And so how did you get through that? Because you ultimately are the one who has to make the call.
Lots of pule. In our halau, na aumakua, right? We're asking for our aumakua for guidance and help. Like that was like morning, noon, and night. Trusting in our employees. So I had some awesome managers and awesome staff who showed up every day.
And she showed up too, working right alongside them, doing everything she could to keep her team and the residents safe.
I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and do the hard work too. And to me, that's also a value because I've seen that over the years for leaders that really would get down and dirty and like roll up their sleeves and get it there in with you. And then other leaders who'd be like, well, I'm gonna stay over here and I'd like you to do this, but I'm gonna stay from afar. And just the dynamics of how that moves people or doesn't move people.
You know, I think as a leader, you have two kinds of power, right? You have the hard power, you can hire and fire someone, and then you have the soft power, which is what you're talking about, which is to get folks to align with your vision and to follow you forward without the threat of being fired.
I will definitely say I feel like I am the soft power leader. Well, maybe my kids and my husband might think otherwise, but maybe it flip-flops, work and family. The authority, but it's not an important value for me as a leader.
For Diane, leadership begins with trust, built on loyalty and lived with aloha. For her, Hula is where those values move. More on that when we come back. Every Sunday, Diane Paloma steps into a different kind of leadership, rooted in her Hawaiian ancestry and deep connection to these islands.
I'm a part of a halau, kapa hula o kalele hua. Have been dancing since pre-high school. There's something about hula that has just kept me going. I've danced the entire time, throughout my entire career, and this halau ohana is my true family. It grounds me, no matter what. We always say hula is life. Hula is not an extracurricular activity for us. It's not an exercise regimen. It is a philosophy, and it's the way in which we process the world, and it's the way in which we look at the world through our lens. And it's just such an innate part of us, and I think that's what has helped me in my professional career path.
You know, it sounds like being grounded in culture gives you a lot of confidence. Tell me about that.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's one identity. Going to Kamehameha, it is imbued in your blood about who you are, and at a time where you can actually learn your identity and be proud of it and pass that on to future generations, because without my identity, I don't think I would have had the confidence to take on CEO roles or get a little nudge from someone to say, hey, I think you'd be great for this role, and you've never thought about it before. Hula helps keep my mind clear. It helps me focus, and it also it constantly reminds me that we're not alone. So when I am alone in my office or having a frustrating moment, knowing that your kupuna surround you in so many ways, it really makes you feel like you're not doing anything alone, which is comforting and also gives you the strength to know that, okay, somebody's done this before long ago. It'll happen again in the future, but for now, there are opportunities to know that, like someone's got your back, whether they're seen or unseen.
And just like in her career, here Diane is a leader. She is a dancer, yes, but she is also the ho'opa'a, the chanter, whose drumbeat guides the way.
There is a olelo no'eau called, that says, Ile'a ka hula I ka ho'opa'a. So the vibrancy or the cheerfulness and the animation of the hula is really driven by the ho'opa'a. If you're chanting a little more solemn or slow, then dancers will pick up on that and reflect on it and exude that same kind of emotion. If it's upbeat and bright and happy, you'll see that reflected in the dancing too. So it's a very symbiotic relationship between the dancer and the chanter, and so it's the chanter's role to be able to imbue that energy so that the dancer exudes that.
This group has danced at the Merry Monarch Festival, the world's premier hula competition, where months of practice culminate in just minutes on stage.
Everything that you learned about the hula, you put on that stage, and it's an exhilarating feeling that you have practiced so hard for a particular moment, and that moment you give it your 100%.
It strikes me that when you're performing, and also when you're doing, work in a more traditional sense, that it all comes down to the practice. It comes down to the preparation. That this is really, you can't fake it. If you didn't go every Sunday, it's not gonna work.
You cannot fake it on the stage, and even especially in ceremony, you cannot fake it. Like, somebody is gonna see that and call you out on it. It's a discipline, right? So hula is a discipline for me, and that's where focus comes from. That's where planning and strategy come in. We say practice doesn't make perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. And so when you're constantly striving for excellence, whether it be in a craft or a job, there's preparation that needs to take place, and that's what Halau has taught me after so many years.
I mean, in my mind, if you can dance Merry Monarch, you can probably do anything.
Oh, maybe. I think so.
That takes tremendous courage and discipline and practice. I mean, when I watch those performances, I just think about the countless hours of work and the countless hours of study. And so knowing that preparation, I have a deep respect for that. And so I think about the parallel. It's like, well, if you could do that.
Hours and hours for 7 minutes on stage.
So why do that? What makes it worth it?
It's that journey, right? It's that process of getting to that point where, the 7 minutes are only 7 minutes of months of practice, months of growth, and just like a learning and getting to a graduation point, or rising up through the ranks of a corporate office. It's that journey and that process where you take all those little bits and pieces along the way. The final moment is really only 7 minutes, very short period of time in one's life. But really, look at all that you have amassed in that time, and the people you have connected with over time, the places you have learned about here in Hawaii, place like no other. And to me, that is the jewel of what hula brings to me in my world.
The practice is the point.
Yeah. The regular, right? That regular steady drumbeat, or that regular steady Sunday practice where I know, yeah, I'm gonna sweat. I might not be able to walk downstairs the next day because my legs are so sore, but it's a spiritual recharge for us and a reminder that we are connected to our kupuna, to our past, and that we are also carrying it forward for my kids, grandkids, right? We talk about in Hawaiian culture, 7 generations ahead of us. That's what we're planning for. So that is my kuleana, right? To be able to learn these songs, recite them, perform them, and teach them to somebody new, so that I know that this song will be carried on down the road, just as when I received it, right? This is hundreds of years of culture.
We hear the word kuleana in Hawaii a lot. What does kuleana mean to you?
So kuleana, right, is responsibility. Oftentimes it's burden, right? That's your kuleana, right? That's your job to do that, your parameter. But for me, it's kuleana is that privilege. It's wow, how lucky we are to be able to have this opportunity to take on this role, or to be the vessel to pass on some kind of knowledge somewhere, someplace.
Still ahead, the strength Diane found in hula would become her anchor through one of her toughest battles. Diane Paloma has spent her life working in healthcare, leading teams, caring for others, supporting patients. But at 40, everything shifted. Suddenly, she was the one who needed care.
My grandmother had breast cancer in her 60s, passed away when I was an infant. My auntie had it in her 50s. And I kind of knew that it's in, it's in my DNA, family history, but nothing to the effect of, okay, my 40th, gift from the universe was a breast cancer diagnosis. There's nothing like mortality to give you a good kick in the butt, to make you think of what is the most meaningful, what is the most important, and what are the things that are gonna keep you going. And it's really like those closest people around you, friends, family.
With her husband and their 3 young daughters by her side, Diane faced her diagnosis with determination, fueled by love and a fierce will to fight.
My oncologist was Clayton Chong, one of the first Native Hawaiian oncologists in the world. And he goes, Diane, I'm gonna give you all these tools, right? He had this boxing analogy that cancer is like putting you in a boxing ring, right? You coach, you train, you keep up your stamina, you do all these techniques so that you can last in the ring. Because he told me, when we go through this process, whatever this process is, I'm gonna be putting you in the ring. I'm gonna be in the corner, so I'm right there with you. I can throw in the towel, I can call a timeout, I can call the match, whatever. But Diane, you gotta go in the ring alone. And so are you ready to do that? And I was like, okay, I think I watched enough Rocky movies. So, okay, okay, I'm ready, right? I put me in.
Because of her age and family history, Diane chose a bilateral mastectomy, a decision that spared her from radiation and chemotherapy and gave her a second chance.
I'm so grateful to have come out on the other side, right? Cancer-free. The universe gave me an extra pass and said, okay, come on, Diane, now's your time. What are you gonna do with this rest of the remainder of that?
What of that experience do you still carry with you now? How has it influenced how you lead and how you live your life?
Well, basically it's okay, life is short. I'm gonna try and do everything that I can now.
What do you tell your daughters about leadership? How do you hope to grow them as leaders?
Be kind, right? Have aloha, because you may not always know what's going on with other people when you're talking with them. When you interact with people, make sure that kindness and aloha are those foundational spaces for you.
You seem very connected to place. You live in the house where you grew up
I
in.
do.
You know, it seems like
Sometimes not by
relationships, relationships and where you're from is very important to you. I wonder if if you have considered or been tempted to go to the continent. Tell me why Hawaii is your place.
I think because college was enough for me to go away, to explore, but really always knowing that this is my home, right? Keone Hanau, this is the sands of my birth, and that there really is no other place like it. You can mimic it, you can try and replicate it, but it's hard to replicate the people, the sounds of the ocean, right? The lifestyle. So yeah, I mean, like, yeah, the allure of a brand new house for under $500K in Vegas. Yeah, of course it's alluring, but but I don't want to live anywhere else, right? I want to live in Hawaii. I think anybody who lives in Hawaii has made some kind of sacrifice, but instead of focusing on the sacrifice, let's focus on like what makes it magical to live here, because it is, right? Like, I mean, who wouldn't want to live here?
What do you think Hawaii needs from its leaders right now?
A lot more aloha, a lot more grace, and just from what I've seen is, I think in my time growing, I think of myself when I was a rising leader. I still consider myself kind of rising leader still, but we revered and respected our elders in ways that I think sometimes we forget, and we're all guilty of it at some point. But we didn't talk over our elders. We didn't. We asked questions, but we didn't question them. And I think in today's society, we see so much more of the tearing down of the, I mean, I'd say kind of almost borderline disrespect, that it actually takes away from the building of a relationship between each other. And that's what I think we're seeing in communities today.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
I'm gonna say my grandfather, when I went away to college, he's like, yeah, you gotta study hard, you gotta work hard, but don't forget to play. You don't have to play hard, but don't forget to play. And I did. Yeah.
And do you still?
Yeah.
And why is that so important, do you think?
Oh, I don't feel that there's ever a way where you can find absolute balance, right? We're talking about work-life balance. And I think my grandfather understood that, right? Like, there's a time to study, there's a time to just dig in, work really hard, get those moments accomplished, but then there's also the time to celebrate it, right? And enjoy it.
For Diane, leadership, like Hula, is a rhythm of discipline, care, and joy, and always a reminder to play. For A Leader's Journey, I'm Yunji Denise.